Hi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Viall Files. I'm Nick, your host. I have my trusty sidekick, Rochelle, with me.
What up?
And we have a very special, very interesting guest today, Tiffany Sorya.
Hello.
For those of you who may not know Tiffany, I think she has a very interesting backstory, and she's doing some very fascinating things with her life and in the community. And she also, I think, is topical for some of the things that have been going on in the news the past few weeks. So I thought we'd bring her on, get to know Tiffany. She is the founder of the Novel Education Group. And I mean, I don't know. I'm always just fascinated by people who start businesses and unique things that are a bit outside of the box. Mm-hmm. In general, I think in the world today, it's very easy to have an idea. It's not easy. First of all, it's hard to have an idea, I guess. But once you have the idea, it's much harder to execute that plan and turn it into a reality. And that's something that Tiffany has done. And I like interesting people. So we'll get to know Tiffany. And so yeah, Tiffany, tell us a little bit about what the Novel Education Group is, and then we'll go from there.
Great. So we're essentially a homeschooling and private tutoring agency. But what we do that's a little bit different than your average agency is we cater to a demographic that sort of lives unconventional lifestyles.
When you say unconventional, can you elaborate?
Yeah, we have students all across the board. So we help anyone from like a young celebrity or young, if you're like 15 years old and you've suddenly found yourself in a record contract, or you're a young actor, or you're a young athlete or something like that. So you live a life that doesn't really, a traditional school setting doesn't really work for you. So we have those clients, and then all the way, to the other end of the spectrum, business executives, people who travel a lot for their jobs,
sure,
or just people that are seeing, like homeschooling had when I was growing up anyways, had such a strange connotation that came with it. Yeah. It's like it was like the weird thing to do when you were in homeschool, but now it's turning into just an alternative way to do school. Some of my clients don't necessarily have a reason why they're not in regular school. They just prefer this type of schooling because we provide a really tailored service.
I mean, it can be helpful, right? To unique students. My some of my younger siblings were homeschooled by my mom. I remember when she considered doing it, and the negative connotation, I was like,
yeah, right.
Oh, they're gonna be weird.
Yeah.
Do we really want to go down that path? Yeah. And it ended up being very beneficial from my younger siblings who did that. Once they got to high school, they went to high school, but they got more personal experience. And some of my younger siblings didn't respond well when they were younger and kind of quieter. And, I think it helped their ability to get the education that they needed and the attention that they needed to learn. So yeah, it's definitely come a long way. Yeah. How did you get started? And let's go back to the beginning. Like, have you always been in education, and how did you end up being a tutor for kind of this niche, kind of unique community?
I was not always in education. In fact, I never even wanted to be a teacher. I never considered myself a kid-friendly person, if I'm being totally honest with you. And
okay. Well.
Yeah, well, I just never, I kind of swear a lot sometimes, and I just always think of it as you had to be a certain type of person in order to be a teacher. And I was like, well, I'm not that type of person, so then I can't be a teacher.
I wonder for all the teachers listening right now, they're like, I swear all the time.
I mean,
perception versus reality, I guess. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, people, I know for some reason people don't humanize their teachers. And it's weird. It's like when you see your it's like they shop for groceries.
Oh, right. When you were a kid and you would see your teacher at the grocery store, and be like, Mrs. M, holy cow, you're a human being.
Yeah, like, just like, I also get this here at Applebee's. And so
I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, so then it's like teachers are people too. But anyways, so no, I didn't see myself in education, but I was always like a scholastic person. I always really liked education. I was always, not always a good student, but for the most part, I was a good student.
Okay.
And then in college, I started when I was like a super nerd in college. Like I became like a super nerd. And then I was like tutoring a lot of my friends.
Okay.
So I would like help them out with stuff.
Kind of took the initiative on that.
Yeah. I mean, I became, I graduated with a degree in molecular biology. So
Wait, what? Huh?
Yeah. So I mean, it's like,
God, I wish I had a smart degree like that. I was an accounting major, which I guess it just doesn't ring molecular. I can't even pronounce biology?
Biology, just a branch of biology.
That's super cool. And what does that mean?
What?
Molecular biology.
Just like biology on a molecular level.
Which
like
is?
Cells and stuff. Cells, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, cells and reactions that happen in cells. But
I'm reminded
please don't ask me anything about it.
I reminded that episode of Seinfeld where Elaine's dating the doctor and he gets really like scientific about her tongue when they start kissing. And I'm kind of reminded of like what that would be like.
And he was like, I was a molecular biology major.
Anyway, so you were, I just find that fascinating. You were a molecular biology major.
Yeah. And so and when I really like hit the stride with school, all my friends that were struggling in certain classes, I enjoyed helping them. I was like, wait, if anyone can do this. Also, it's, like you're like, oh my God, I can't pronounce it. Like you could also be a molecular biology major if you really wanted to.
Yeah, no, I believe.
Do you know what I mean? It's like being a good student is a set of skills. It's not necessarily like this God-given talent. Like I don't really believe. There are some people, I will say, that are sponges. Like there are the few that can like sit in the class and they can get it right away. I was not one of those people. I had to work really, really hard for my degree. I had to work really, really hard for my grades. And I feel like I just kind of understood how to be a good student. And so I wanted to share that with my peers.
But I also agree with you. I mean, there's talent is a real thing. I mean, people have various degrees of talent, but I still think work ethic and the desire to be something and following through is way more meaningful and plays a bigger role than there's a lot of talented people who don't accomplish what they're capable of. I mean, that's almost a limitless pool of people. And I do think sometimes people get too discouraged about their dreams or things they want to do and assuming that they can't do it. And sometimes we have some limits, but it's those people who find ways to break through those barriers and follow through by doing what needs to get done, legally, to make those dreams come true. So yeah, I mean, so anyways, you're a teacher and you are tutoring your friends and you're like, this is cool.
This is cool, but I still was never just like, I want to be a tutor when I grow up. Like I never thought of that. Or have a tutoring business when I grow up.
And then you graduated?
Graduated, moved to Los Angeles right after I graduated. Okay. I went to school in Portland. And
never been.
Oh, Portland's so great.
It's great and lush.
It's really, I love it more and more as I get older. Also, Portland was not that cool when I was growing up. It like recently got cool.
Got hip recently?
I'm like, Portland was not like this when I was growing up. But suddenly now that there's Portlandia and all this stuff, it's like this new cool hip place. But it's great. I love it.
So you moved to LA.
Moved to LA. And just looking, and I was kind of lost a little bit, to be totally honest. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
That is easy to happen in LA.
Yeah, I knew I needed to get out of Portland.
What made you move to LA?
I was bored. I was done with Portland.
Honest answer?
Yeah, I was done and I just wanted to go somewhere new. I wanted to go somewhere where I didn't know anyone.
You had your molecular biology degree in hand. And
yes, I had my molecular biology degree in hand, my suitcase in the back seat.
Glasses, and I'm going to change the...
and I drove down to LA with I drove with no plans. And
that's brave. You didn't even have a plan.
I had a place to live.
Okay.
That's good.
That's yeah. Some people
way ahead of the game. Yeah. So I applied for tutoring jobs when I came down here.
Was that like a way to, well, I know how to do this. I need to make ends meet. So that's what I'll do in the meantime.
Yeah. I was like, I enjoy doing this. And tutors make decent money. And I was never like a bartending server type of person. And so, and I wanted to use my degree. And I knew how to do it. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to apply for some tutoring jobs. So I got hired through an agency. And within a few months, I had like a full caseload. I really took on as many students as possible. So there was definitely a while where I was just bombing it around LA, tutoring
and you're teaching everything.
Over.
Math, science, everything. English.
Yeah, everything.
I'm good at some things and not good at others in education. Like I was good at math and science, but I couldn't tell you where a comma goes to save my life. Yeah. I'm like, there. Colon? Sure. Why not? And I just find that you were good enough to kind of teach it all.
Yeah. I mean, after a while, once you're exposed to sort of the classes, the English and history classes once, then you kind of get it.
History, I liked.
And as an adult, you're kind of just like a better reader than teenagers, I hope anyways. So you
speak for yourself.
So you can read information and process it and analyze it a little faster.
All right. So then you're doing this, and then when does novel education?
Okay,
when does it click?
Right. So I work with sort of some, high profile clientele people like here and there.
Don't be bashful.
And I actually got hired through a school that was based out of Atlanta just for homeschooling. Just very cool. Okay, so they're out of Atlanta, but they had quite a few clients out here in Los Angeles. So I became sort of like the head teacher, and I was dealing with and I was doing all the placements. I was like placing teachers with families. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of already doing it, and I became really familiar with it. And then, so through the school is when I met Kendall and Kylie Jenner.
Okay.
Smith.
I mean, I know.
Do you know Kendall and Kylie?
I know
Smith?
a Kendall and Kylie
because they often get confused with Kendall and Kylie Jenner.
I know a Kendall and Kylie on The Bachelor. Kendall on The Bachelor. Her twin sister is Kylie. It was like this whole thing. So.
Oh wait, well it was them.
A lot of Bachelor people listen to this podcast, so this might be so the Jenners. So you became their tutor.
I became their tutor, their homeschool teacher.
Okay.
I think Kylie was a freshman or a sophomore, and Kendall was just 1 year older. And when I started working with them, and I worked with other people prior to them that were in the entertainment industry, but not at that level or scope.
Awareness of
yes. Yeah. And this is at a time when they were a little less well-known than they are now. And so, but they still had these like blossoming careers. And so I was really like faced with this challenge of just, how am I supposed to make education relevant to people who don't necessarily need education in order to succeed?
Sure, in the sense,
life.
In the sense that you mean, like if it may not have affected their ability to earn an income or their careers if they didn't necessarily know where to put a comma or like how to do long division.
Yes,
etc.
Precisely. So then I'm like sort of faced with this daily challenge every day of how to make education relevant again to this younger generation of people that are coming up on like social media and all of that. And so that's kind of where like the platform for novel education formed for me, was just making smart, stylish again is like our little tagline, like making education cool, making it like trendy, making it, and because I became, I was young and still like, I mean, just like, I like pop culture. I like fashion. I like makeup. I like all the things that regular people like, but I'm also educated, and I also care about education. So I think that was like, it sort of made a bridge between the two worlds for them, and then also for other people who started to reach out. because I was like a relatable person that cared about school. So it's like teenagers wanted to listen to what I had to say.
Almost like, I mean, I'm assuming maybe you became a friend, but also in a way a mentor to like say, your students and, yeah, I mean, the mentors are, they play a big role in our lives. And I think I took violin in the 4th grade and I was terrible, but I joined violin because the teacher was also the football coach and I thought he was cool and I wanted to be like him.
Right.
And that's why I decided to play the violin.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I sucked, but at the same time, like that plays a role in why we get into things at an early age and so that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool about how, education is so important in our lives, especially early on. And thinking that, we just, again, sometimes we don't realize at a younger age, like how our decisions are going to affect us in the future.
Right.
And when did education long ago become not cool? Like back in the day, almost like, it was kind of a thing where it's like, oh, school, is it because kids just don't like it? It's not fun.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think a lot of people
the nerd, almost like a nerd was a negative kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's become hip and trendy now. And but historically, if you're a nerd, you're not cool. If you're popular, you were,
you kind of suck at school.
Right.
Yeah.
That general stereotype, and breaking down those barriers.
Yeah. I'm trying to create a whole new stereotype. So I met them and then when I was sort of handling everything, that's when like the business idea kind of started to form because I kind of felt like I was already doing it, but under all these different names, under this agency, under this other school. And so I'm like, I can do this. I feel like I saw like a void in the market for a service like mine that was really tailored and also was, the branding was kind of cool and a lot of kids and parents took to it. And so then I started Novel.
That's really cool. I mean, how did you go from the idea to making it a thing again, I asked this question because I think it's cool to have the idea and then make it into reality, regardless if it's a school or it's an essential oil business or a makeup business, again, having an idea, or even for just anyone out there who's listening, what were some of the things that you had to do?
So, logistically, incorporating the company was the first thing, which means registering your company. Registering the company, buying the domain. That's the first step, once because I think like everything got real after I did that. Yeah. Once I clicked the little button, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm like a company now.
Well, isn't that kind of interesting too?
And I gotta do stuff.
Not that starting a company is hard. I mean, not that starting a company is easy. It's incredibly hard. And it just always gets harder and harder. And every time you think you have something figured out, some problem happens you have to adjust to. Mm-hmm. However, sometimes we are afraid of sometimes you just have to do it, registering the company and it becomes a thing.
Is
and then
not hard.
It's quite
literally.
You just get, But I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes we are so afraid to take that leap of trying to make a dream come true. And you kind of have to figure it out as you go. I think sometimes nowadays, we're so afraid to fail sometimes, and we have to have X, Y, and Z. It's almost like and I think it's fine, but we're having kids later in life. Like my parents tell the story, well, we just started having kids. They had no money. They didn't have really a place to live.
And now people are like,
we'll just figure it out. And now everyone's like, well, I mean, how much money do you make? How much money do I make? Do we have our second home? I'm not talking about I feel like everyone's doing that. It doesn't matter your wealth or whatever. In Wisconsin, it was same concept. You just had it all planned out, and now we can start having kids, which is it's just so much different now. Mm-hmm. But there's something lost in just going for it and figuring it out, and then failures will happen, and you adjust, and you try to, and then you go from it, and you learn from those mistakes, and you keep on going. Shavings make a pile, kind of
thing. Yeah, no, it's true, and a lot of people. ask just sort of like, well, why? Like, what made you start it? Where did you? And honestly, there's not really an answer to the question why. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't any particular reason other than the fact that I just wanted to start it and thought I had a great idea and then wanted to like make it into a thing. So then you click the button and then you're like, okay, I have a company now. But then that's when all the learning really starts.
Growing it and networking.
Because then you're like, okay, you have this entity, and so what are you trying to do with it? Yeah. That is now your responsibility.
And that's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
But how much having did that and making that decision to file and to start the company how much was that the motivating aspect of saying, well, now that I did this, I don't want to fail. The fear of failure is very powerful.
And then it becomes real. I mean, failure becomes very real once you've incorporated everything.
But before it was like, well, I have this idea and I don't know if I'll do it, and you never do it, so you never failed because you didn't start it. Yeah. But now once you start it, I got to make this a thing. So now I start telling people about it, what are you doing? Oh, I started a school. Oh, really? How's it going? You see him again? Yeah, it didn't happen. You don't want to be that person. So like you want to, I know. I'm a big believer in figuring it out and setting yourself up so in the fear of failure can be very motivating.
Yes.
It is for me. I don't know.
It is for me too. It still is.
I think for anyone.
Yeah.
Although some people who just like to lie.
I'm not scared at all.
That person who's always like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing so many things.
Yes.
Like, really? That's interesting.
This and this and this, and I'm so busy.
So busy.
This and this and this and this.
We actually do get a lot of listeners emailing in saying that they want advice on how they can like start their own podcast or go after something that they want. So I think people will really find this interesting.
Thank you. I'm in speaking in general, like I said, I think having an idea that's hard too, especially an original idea. And then once you have an idea, I don't know what you think, Tiffany, but ask questions. I mean, sometimes people are afraid. I think one strength I've always had is a willingness to reach out and ask for help. And I think asking for help is a very powerful tool. Also, even if you are calling customer service, little life hack here, don't call up mad. Don't start yelling at people. Don't say, fuck you. Just call up and say, hey, Pam, is it? And the next thing that comes out of your mouth is, I really need your help. Please.
Oh, yes.
People love to help people. Like if you ask for help, then you are empowering someone. And even if it's someone like on LinkedIn or whatever, in some like big, what seemingly unattainable person or executive, everyone has that ego of like wanting to help someone. And so when you lead with, I need your help, man, that really works on people. And it's not disingenuous because people have a desire to help. And when you need my help?
Yes.
Really?
And then you're like, I know more than you.
And when you call like customer service, like you can tell there's things they can do and there's things they won't do. And I sometimes, well, I'm sorry, sir, we can't do that. You can't? Are you sure? Because I'm fine. Thank you. I call again and then I ask for help again. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. I can't tell you how many times I've been told we can't do this, only to call again and be like, oh, that's no problem.
Yeah.
And honestly, the more I ask for help and the more I make it seem like you're the only person, Pam, who can save my day and arguably my life. Can you do this, Pam? Yes, Nick, indeed I can. And I'm telling you, just in life, I think asking for help and asking for guidance is a skill that I think people should try to do. Reach out to people. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're looking for a job, if you have a dream job out there and maybe not starting your business, and you have an interview coming up, look for people in that industry in your community and say, hey, my name is Nick and I've always, had a dream to do this. Do you have 20 minutes for a cup of coffee? I'd love to pick your brain. You could really help me out. And a lot of people will ignore you, but there's always going to be one person who's like, yeah, sure, man. Like someone's going to relate to your motivation and your desire to succeed and want to help you. And maybe you can find a mentor along the way. So I think that's step one. And I think it can go a long way. And then when you do that, taking the advice of the people that, listen to those, those people. I think sometimes people learn two different ways. They learn from their own failures and they learn from the advice they get from people. And the more we can like seek the advice of the people who've already failed, the better off and life can be. And so that's to me, that's the starting point. And then there's so many other variables about starting a business, but I think if you can do that, you get a really big head start.
Yeah. I mean, asking for help is huge, I mean, just for to get really specific with how do you start a podcast? I think the first step would just be like going to Guitar Center or something like that and being like, hey, I want to start a podcast. What kind of mic should I buy?
Yeah, you can do that. And like finding someone who has a podcast and that's the thing, you might not even realize, well, I guess that's all you have to do. I mean, there's other variables, but like sometimes and that's kind of a great point is whether it's a podcast or anything else, the idea of something can sound way more challenging than it is. And it doesn't mean that like things can grow and become bigger. You can start a business and it can be a very simple business. Natural Habits is a small business and we tend to grow, but right now we're trying to walk before we run. Other like your tutoring business.
I mean, Novel Education I had one student,
and so that's still a legit business.
I had two students that I was teaching, and I was Novel Education group.
Exactly.
And then it just grows, but you also have to keep like working at your craft. It's not like you start it and then suddenly you have all this stuff that you need to take care of and you have all this product that you need to send out. You have to like build your product. You have to build your service. You have to curate it. You have to.
And those things come, right? But like the idea of something can sometimes weigh us down.
Yeah.
Of the fear of, I mean, I don't know. I never thought I'd own my own business because I didn't know what that meant.
Right,
and the idea of it seems so impossible. And not that again, we're not downplaying owning one, the work it takes, but if you really have a dream, ask for help, find out what it takes. And sometimes getting the start can be sometimes easier than you realize. And from there, you have to just be willing to
I mean, I tell my students this all the time. Yeah. The hardest part about getting anything done is starting it.
Mm-hmm. See, that's true. That sums it up. I took a long time to just say that.
Yeah, that's the hard. And then once you're finished, I mean, you're never really like finished with building a business, but in terms of just maybe the little steps along the way of starting a business, once you've finished a task, then you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. That was totally doable. And then the more times that you do that, actually the more confidence you gain in terms of tackling things that you don't know how to do. I feel like at this point, personally anyways, now that I feel like I've done this and there's something that I really have no clue how to do it, I feel so much more confident being able to at least try and figure it out.
Yeah. Because I don't know.
But it's okay that I don't know.
Yes.
I'll just figure it out. Whereas before it's like this totally unattainable thing. So the more times that you try and succeed, try and fail, then it kind of becomes second nature.
That's really fascinating. I have some more questions about Novel Education and your community in the world you find yourself in for some of these interesting stories that have been going on, the Varsity Blues scandal and stuff. But before we get to that, we are going to sell some essential oils.
Awesome.
Tiffany. It's ad time. Natural Habits, we talked about, is my company. We sell essential oil blends.
Oh, that packaging.
I designed it myself.
That's really nice.
I mean, by myself, I did it with my friend Kyle and my friend Paige as well. But I came up with the concept. And and again, I never thought I would have designed packaging that's predominantly used by women, but intended to be used by both men and women. We want it to be gender neutral. Well, no, I mean, in the sense that like I just knew my audience is obviously predominantly women. Women tend to seem to be more in tune with like learning about like
definitely
self-care. Like guys are like, whatever, but we want it to be gender neutral. But thank you for. So if you ever had a question about essential oils, they've impacted my life immensely with my ability to sleep better, help with my anxiety, reduce my headaches, and just overall improve my overall mental and physical and emotional well-being. We are launching our diffuser line. We have our diffuser right here running and operating.
It's so pretty.
It's lovely.
It is. I don't know if you guys use candles and what you guys are spending on candles these days, but it's probably a lot. And I don't know if you thought about it, but if you are lighting a candle, you are lighting a chemically created thing on fire and then breathing it. I don't know about you. It doesn't sound like that's going to improve your emotional, mental, and physical well-being.
No.
But essential oils are a great way to obviously make your, if you are diffusing them, your house or apartment smell great. And at the same time, it has these medicinal benefits like relieving stress and anxiety and helping you sleep and reducing headaches.
Can you make like a love potion one that you could diffuse in your room and then when people come over?
No, relaxing. You can
like
feel
an
relaxed.
an aphrodisiac.
That's the thing about essential oils. I think a lot of people have questions. Like, listen, it's helped me. It aids in it, right? It definitely helps me. It helps me do things like not take melatonin and Tylenol PM, which I used to do to sleep, and those can become very addicting. And then when you wake up feeling kind of groggy and things like that, I used to take a lot of ibuprofen for headaches, and I'd be able to take less and less of that by using essential oils. It's not a cure-all, but just like I'm a big believer in doing all the things you need to do to be healthy, working out, eating right, using essential oils in terms of helping those additional, benefits that we need or ailments that we have and alleviate those. And so
there's got to be an essential oil for love, Nick. You got to find it.
Yeah, well, I'm asking. I like to protect the industry because I think essential oils gets like a negative connotation of like this hocus pocus kind of thing, and they have some really great benefits to it. It doesn't do everything. So I think some people in the industry claim that it's like, well, no matter what your problem is, there's an essential oil for that. And that is just not the case, but there's a lot of great things they can do. And
high blood pressure.
We specialize.
Make my face prettier.
When you blend essential oils, they can maximize their benefits. We blend them for you, ready to go. We have the roll-ons you can put directly on your skin. You can find us at nhoils.com. Follow us at Natural Habits.
What's our special
Instagram.
Code for today?
What's our special code? We're trying to do new codes each week when we do it. Do you have we had cougars as a code. It worked really well.
I don't know.
Novel?
Novel.
Code novel. ONVEL. 30% off. We do free domestic shipping for anything over $50. And get it now.
Also, it's NO, just to like.
What?
NOVEL.
How did I spell? I'm the worst speller. I need a tutor.
I think you said ON, but like I think it was just.
Did I say ON?
I'm also just a mistake.
I'm pretty sure I'm just.
Okay,
I'm gonna find out.
that you know how to spell novel.
Did I spell ON?
I think you said
You're getting schooled. You
That's
should pay her.
embarrassing.
She's tutoring you right now.
It's my job.
I'm dyslexic.
I'll send you an invoice.
I'm pretty sure I'm
after this.
dyslexic. Yeah. I need to find out because I do that a lot. NOVEL. Did I spell it ON? Anvil?
I could just change. I could just change the name of my business.
I said this in front of a tutor. Imagine if I was on a date and I was just like, yeah, and I'm spelling novel ON. Just look at me and just
like the book, like a novel. ONVEL.
An anvil. Have you read any good anvils lately? Yeah, totally.
Heard any?
Have you? What's your favorite anvil?
Yeah.
And life-changing anvil, go.
I know a really good tutor, Nick, that you could employ.
Essential oils do not make you spell better, unfortunately. Anyways, find us at nhoils.com, 30% off with code NOVEL, NOVEL.
Yes. Gold star.
Whoo. 5-star rating. So, Tiffany.
Nick.
I'm really so into this. What is it called? Operation Varsity Blues?
Yes.
I don't get it. I don't. So here's the thing. Do you operate in this world where you are tutoring the Jenners and other people of note in this very niche community, which I'm assuming is open to criticism of entitlement and privilege.
Definitely.
I'd actually be curious how you, as a tutor, maybe help them to be aware of maybe that perception and how they mitigate that. But this Varsity Blues scandal, I've never heard of a more pointless crime. I don't get it. I came from a very blue collar family. I have 10 siblings. My mom didn't go to college because, my mom didn't go to college. I've told this story before because she was a woman. Honestly, she had 5 brothers who all went to college, and my grandparents were like, "No, you're not going to college," which was a whole that.
Wow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then my dad was a college dropout as a freshman year. He's brilliant, a really smart guy, and so my parents obviously wanted us to go to college, but they couldn't afford to pay for college.
Yeah.
It was, well, if you want to go to college, literally conversations in the 7th and 8th grade, well, start saving up, go start working. I was fortunate enough that I was athletic. And so I got an athletic scholarship, but there's no guarantees that, but like, I also worked really hard at that too. My point being is this, I don't get it because I don't understand. Here's the thing. I saw a tweet that I think really summed up how the perception of it. It was like in the point of view of like Lori, Aunt Becky, and it was like, I want my kids to go to college, and then an admissions person was like, "Oh, great. Well, you could just make a sizable donation, and no problem." No. I prefer to do a crime.
Yes, I prefer to cheat.
No, not necessary. Just a donation will do. No. Crime, please.
Yeah.
No, really. If you just a small, like kind of, but reasonable donation, definitely crime. But that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
I don't understand because like from my understanding of what happened, and not to knock USC, it's a great school, but like it's a state school. It's
actually pretty.
No, it's a great school, but I guess do you have to reputation. Like? Yeah, a lot of like I went to Wisconsin, great reputation, but it's also
I think the percentage of admittance is pretty low for USC.
To the point where you have to. What I don't get is like she was so. And correct me if I'm wrong. She bribed someone to make it seem like she was admitted on her own abilities. So, and then in addition that she was on the row team.
Yes.
I'm just like, here's what I don't get. Why that row team in the sense of what does that do for you in life? And she doesn't strike me as someone who's going around being like, I'm on row.
But I crew.
And is that getting her anywhere? I ran track in college and I'm proud of that. Don't get me wrong. And it's like, but it's water cooler talk at this point in my life. It is not as if I'm like, I'm in a meeting and I'm in like some sort of work meeting and they're like telling me no. I'm like, wait, but I ran track in college. And they're like, really?
It's not about this team. They literally just were trying to get them into
No, my point is what's the motivation for wanting to say that you were in it? What I'm saying is like the idea being that it was going to give her some advantages or something.
Right.
Like, I'm on crew. As if like, oh, you were on crew?
No, that's literally the only way they could get her into the school.
So this is the reason behind the whole athletic. There's 2 ways. There's 2 ways that this happened.
The money is what got him in.
No. Well, yes. Okay. Let me break it down.
Listen to her.
I'm just okay.
Let me break it down. There's 2 ways that this happened. Okay. The reason why the athletics thing, they lied about this being an athlete, essentially, which, okay, I'll get into that later, is because, coaches have a certain number of slots that they can fill. Okay. And for these athletes, it kind of doesn't matter how well they did in school. They got to hit certain benchmarks, okay?
I applied for college in August. School started in September to the school I ended up going to because I was fortunate enough to get an athletic scholarship.
Yes. Okay.
So that happened. And I had decent grades, but sure.
There are slots that are open to athletes.
Yes.
And if you are an amazing rower, then they're going to want you at that school, even if your GPA is like a 1.2. Okay. So they'll make it work. Okay.
Sure.
So there's that. So that's one way to get people into school. There's a minimum
standard.
Yeah.
Right?
1.2 is a little low. Yeah. That's an exaggeration. But that's one way as like a shoe-in.
Okay.
Okay. So that was one way that this whole scandal thing works. So the reason why
that was the loophole.
That was a loophole,
Okay.
I think, for them specifically. Was like they do crew, they're on the crew team, they recruit for the crew team. Here's some pictures of them rowing a boat, and
Literally. Mm-hmm. So that's my question, though. And again, I'm ignorant in this world, but can't you just make a donation?
No. Okay, I have families that make donations. And while a donation obviously really, really helps, all it really does is put that application on the top of the pile, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee any type of admittance.
So you could donate $500,000 to, say, USC and say, here you go. I mean, if you want to give me a plaque, fine, but I don't need it. But it'd be really nice if my daughters could go to your school.
Yeah.
They can be like, thank you for the money. They will say no.
They can say no.
But do they say no? I'm just wondering, does USC go, sure, but no, we're not gonna.
I don't know.
We'll take the money. I just feel like that.
If they've ever said no, but I do know that they make it very clear that just because you made a donation does not mean that it's like a green light for you automatically to get into the school.
Do they make it clear for the perception of it?
No, I think that they should be more vocal about it.
Well, I guess I'm just
because
wondering,
I think that
I'm curious what actually happens. So if someone, you're saying like they make it clear that they don't, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just
guarantee.
like when you're applying for a job, right? It's like you have 500 people applying for a job, but if Nancy Jones,
Pam and Nancy Jones,
if you know who Nancy Jones's daughter is, then when you're going through those applicants, you're going to be like, oh, this is Courtney Jones, Nancy Jones's daughter. Well, let's look at her application. Like, that's kind of how it works. It just makes you, the donation makes you known at that school. The dean of admissions knows who you are. So then when they're going through the quite literally thousands of applicants that they get, they're going to look for that application and be like, okay, if you meet the criteria, then you're in. But
so you're saying if in the donation world, it probably gets you in, but it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. Whereas this, I mean, who knows?
This cheating world is like allegedly a guarantee.
I think that's why they
guarantee
did it.
you.
It was just a guarantee. It was just like, okay, cool. We could donate $1 million to the school to get your application on the top of the pile. Or we could bribe the athletic coach and pay him $1 million to say you're on the crew team, and we know you're going to get into the school.
But this is the athletic coach. But also, aren't they missing a rower in the boat?
See, that's what I don't understand. Is that, okay, once they're in the school, it's like, are they like, oh, I gotta row?
It's like
are they like
all the people on their team are like, well, I mean, we're like
you're kind of bad.
We're a women's show. They're like, is she showing up or what's up?
That's what I don't understand.
We keep taking third place. If we had one more person, we would probably be pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I was actually reading up about it yesterday and this morning, because I was like, well, what happens when they actually get in? Are they on the crew team? And then people are just like, you row? Like, I don't, did she go around or maybe
people?
Once they're in, they can quit the team. I actually don't know how that part works.
What is your stance as a tutor? And I got another question on this topic is, listen, college obviously is an important thing. I went to it. I'm thankful I went. I was an accounting major. I'm not an accountant. But getting the college education matters, and I think it's there's so many benefits to just the education about the life experience. That being said, I think it's not the end all be all nowadays, and especially nowadays, the way the world is there's so many different ways to succeed in the world. I'm just surprised that it sounds like her daughter Olivia is her Olivia.
Yeah.
She didn't seem to be that interested. Everything that's out there, she's like, I don't really want to go to school. I wasn't that motivated. Yeah. But so why force your kid? Why? I mean, especially where she has these opportunities. And if it is just about the education, hire a tutor.
Yes.
I don't know what your rates are for $500,000, but I'm guessing.
I mean, it's
you could
not
probably really smart someone up.
They're lower than $500,000.
It's just I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I really take a lot of the blame just completely off the students.
I feel bad for her.
I actually feel really bad for for all the students that are involved, because this is not something I don't think that they were fully aware of, or B, kind of had any control over.
Yeah, if you're 17 and your parents are like, don't worry about it. We'll
hire you a tutor.
We'll take care of it.
Oh yeah.
You're like, great. My parents I wouldn't have known the difference.
Exactly. And when I talk to my clients, I'm talking to the parents that are hiring our service. We're not talking to the students just being like, hey, this is what we're going to do to get you into the school. This is what we're going to do to bring your exam scores up. They're just being students. They're just being teenagers. So I feel bad for them. But, to what you were saying in terms of just sort of like why, I mean, obviously I think that there's a certain amount, in certain circles, the name of where you went to school is popular.
Do you think it still matters as much?
It's like a brand name of clothing, to be honest with you.
But these are not circles I run in, but I guess I don't, again, that almost surprises me still to this day, because before I was doing what I was doing, I was in corporate America for 10 years. I worked for a company called Salesforce, and that Salesforce it's like working for Google, and it's a very prominent tech company, and the sky was the limit for me there. And there was a lot of talented executives who had all different types of education. I haven't submitted my college transcripts since my second job. Mm-hmm. I get asked in social settings, where'd you go to school? But that's kind of that's where it stops. And and maybe it's just, I'm not operating in that world, but it's where, and even if that's just the case, it is a social standing. I think
we'll see that question that you just said of just sort of in social situations of, oh, where'd you go to school? I think they're social situations where they get that question of where'd you go to school? I think that alone, for them to be like, oh, USC or UCLA or Yale or Stanford.
Is UCLA and Yale the same?
Yeah. I mean, they kind of hold, not totally, but they both hold pretty
Wisconsin and Michigan
merit.
are like great Big Ten schools and great educations. I always equated like a Wisconsin and a Michigan to like UCLA and USC. Fantastic educations. CEOs and executives have all gone there. I mean, Yale, because Yale and Harvard, it's like, oh, that's like this little Ivy League. But even then, I don't know, man. Unless you're running for office, what?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know.
I agree.
Why we do these things?
It's unfortunate, especially because there's so many students that work so hard.
Yeah.
Honestly, and to get in to school.
So hard to your point where they're like too hard, or there's some like dark realities of students who are stressed out, who addicted to things like Ritalin or and because they're studying all hours of the night, and it's just man,
the real athletes. I mean, the real athletes are going to school until 2. They have practice till 7, and then they're doing like honors and AP classes until 11 o'clock.
And when I was in high school, I would go to school. I was from Wisconsin. I would run repeat 400s until I'd throw up. And then I would go to Century grocery store and work in the produce department. Then I would come home, I'd do my homework, and then I would go to bed. Mm-hmm.
That was your life.
That was my life. And
then you hoped that you would get
I hoped I would get a partial scholarship because it was track and field. Let's not pretend it's football or football paid for the college scholarships. And, so just to get a little bit of I knew it would help me get in, and I knew it would help pay for it. But yeah, I mean, that is unfortunate that does happen. Yeah. All just to say
the whole thing's really unfortunate. And it's sad.
I'm curious, at what point does it stop? Does it stop mattering in life? When you graduate from college, I guess. But I mean, even when I meet someone at a social setting, oh, you went to Harvard, I'm like, cool. And then we just move on. I just don't know.
Then you move on, yeah.
Where does it really move the needle?
Well, I think that in this situation, it's just sort of to reiterate, it's so much more for the parents to be like, oh, yes, well, she's 18. She's starting USC in the fall. It's like that conversation.
So the social setting for parents.
Yes. I think so.
That makes sense.
Because I don't really think that the social circles that like Olivia is in I don't think they're really gonna like her any less for not getting into USC.
I'm thinking like she's just like, well, I want to go to the parties. They're like, well, you don't go here. I mean, I'm pretty sure she could go to any USC party, show up to the frat house, be like, hi, can I?
Yeah, I'm sure that they'd be like, come on.
Oh, really? You wanna party with us? By all means. Like, I mean, I don't know her. Like, she's hopefully old enough to drink alcohol, and if not, she shouldn't be there. But yes, like, right, like, what is stopping her to do all the things she wants to do? At a college party? So I think
it was a lot more. It was a lot more.
That's
definitely
unfortunate.
A parent thing.
It's just unfortunate to say.
And now, I mean, I think that they both withdrawn from the school.
I do feel bad for the students.
Me too. Me too. And I think this obviously all the students in all of these universities are like up in arms about it. I mean, I think that the admittance rate for Stanford is something like 6%. I mean, we're talking 6 out of 100 kids that apply. And if 3 of those kids are because of a bribe, then that's really unfortunate.
And I don't think some of the kids didn't even know their parents were doing it.
Right? So they're like, yeah.
Again, I think about when I was 16 or 17, and if my parents ever came to me and said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Whatever that was, I just immediately stopped worrying about it. Right? Right. Your parents are.
They're your parents. You
whatever
trust them.
it is.
They're the people you trust
they tell you to stop worrying about. You're like, great. Yeah. I'm gonna go fuck off and play with my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I totally feel bad for the criticism, and like overnight their world changed. And listen, they've lead charmed lives, and I'm sure ultimately they will be fine relative to the real struggles that a lot of people have out there, but it's a bummer.
It's crazy, and to be totally honest, I'm kind of really happy that it's coming up, and I'm happy that it's being exposed.
How so?
It's a very real world.
I believe that, but I'm curious as what your point of view, because I wonder if you feel the criticism by some of the students you do teach and tutor, and the perception of entitlement and privilege in that community, and what you're doing to kind of circumvent that bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I think I was listening to this other podcast that was talking about sort of how there should not, if someone that said it, I don't remember who, he said there should not be a separate admittance system for wealth. And the fact of the matter is that there is. There absolutely is. And I think people who work in education, I mean, obviously, I run a private homeschooling business. It's like there is a business out of education in this country, and so while I understand that there are opportunities, to make money and to sort of help people guide, I think it's. You have to try and get people to be self-aware about what they want out of school. Like if she didn't want to go to school, then like she doesn't have to go to school. You know what I mean? Like that I think that's totally what it's about. Is
also there's all different forms of secondary education. My sister was a college graduate, Maria. She played basketball too, but she's a great student. And then she got into she's a holistic nutritionist, and so she went back to school, and then she's glad she went to college, but what she's doing now has everything to do with what she went back to school for, and she went to school in Vancouver and studied holistic. Sorry, Maria, but it's like she went. She's a holistic dietitian. Sorry, and so to your point, if you are an artist or you want to. There's just different ways to get an education.
Yes, and thankfully, I have not run into this problem myself. I have not run into the problem of just like, okay, look, like my kid is gonna get into school, like no matter what. Like, what do we have to do? And I've all my clients are really honest and work hard, and are also really self-aware of exactly what they want out of education. I have students that have no aspirations for college, and then I have students who have major aspirations for college. So treating each of those accordingly, but also just being really honest with the ones that do want to go to college and just say like, nothing's going to get you into college but hard work.
Yeah.
And really making that the known thing to them and also their parents.
Yeah.
You know,
how much when you're teaching, other than the arithmetic and the grammar, are you teaching life skills to, especially in that community, like Kylie, and for example, of having the influence that she has out there and the social responsibility that comes along with the power that, this Olivia has with her followers. And I mean, that's real influence, and there's definitely a social responsibility that comes along with it. Like what are you doing in that space?
I think that helping them once again be aware of the influence that they have and what that really means. I think it's so easy to have the followers on Instagram and have the following on whatever platform and be kind of unaware of it because there's like a big, digital wall there.
Yeah. I don't think Kylie realized that she was going to affect the market cap of Snapchat. By
I don't think $3 billion. Yeah, I don't.
She was like, I don't feel like using it today.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's not on her. But that's just that blew my mind when that happened.
Yeah, no, and it's not. So I think making them aware of the impact that they do have on this young generation is really important.
Not too long ago, Chloe was criticized for a Fit Tea ad she did. I mean, I'm certainly not them, and I certainly have a social platform I run. I've promoted things other than natural habits. I definitely try to, and I do use the stuff that I promote. And I tried, and not try, but when it comes to my messaging, like natural habits is a perfect example. I don't go on there and say everything I'm doing is a result of that. I need nothing else other than essential oils, and this is how it's done everything. Or I've promoted a scale before, and I do use it. It helps me track, and how I promote that is to say, I'm fortunate enough to be in shape, and I don't lose weight from it, but it helps me track my progress and helps me stay motivated because I look at other things other than my weight or body. And so I get behind it. And Chloe got criticism by suggesting that her entire look was based off of Fit Tea.
Yeah.
I mean, friends of yours, but what are your thoughts on that type of social responsibility? Because no doubt the influence that they all have is immense. I don't know if there's a lot of people out there who are waking up trying to replicate and literally do everything I do and look like me and be me and just mimic. But they do. They have people who are young women who are truly just all they ever wanted to be is literally them.
In Chloe's defense, I think she's very vocal about how often she works out. And
that's true.
And what she eats. So I don't think that it's all the tea,
I didn't see the ads.
And I don't think I saw it either. And I also, I think I would be really surprised if she was just like, it's all because of the tea. Thanks, I got my
probably wasn't
post baby body all because of this tea. And I think everyone knows, she's got the show, the work, I don't know what it's called, but the workout show that she does. So I think she is really vocal about other things that she does. But there are some people that are not vocal about other things that have not as much influence as them, but a lot of influence. And I think we have to be really careful about what we do with influence, because suddenly you're getting young girls who aspire to be social media influencers as a career, and you're not actually what is an influencer? Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean,
what is it? So what are you going to do? It's cool. I'm going to post about these sunglasses. I'm going to post about this candle. I'm going to post about this jacket. It's is that, what are you actually influencing here by doing these things? I
think there's a bubble there in that, when social media came out, people were really building. And again, for me, I fell into it. Like I have a following based off of this unique experience I did. And now I'm, utilizing it to the best of my abilities while still trying to have a positive impact and leveraging my opportunity. But building these followings, I feel like there's this bubble there now where I don't know if it's as easy to do anymore, and I'm glad, but I think we all have, like, social media, we all have influence to a certain degree. Even if you're not the Jenners or you don't have a massive following, people have access to your opinion now, and you can share that and influence people positively or negatively by the things we say on social media.
Yeah, definitely. So just, in terms of my students anyways, or the influence that I try and have on my social media, or what I try and tell other people, is if you're aware, it's just so important to have some type of message, because even if you aren't super into education yourself, there are so many people that follow you that are, and it will affect their lives. Like if we're talking about underprivileged kids, those kids rely on education as a ticket to get out of whatever shit neighborhood they're in or whatever, and so those are the people that honestly we have to influence, because then they should be looking at all these Instagram accounts or whatever and being like, wait, they think school is cool. I'm going to think school is cool too. Yeah, so that's what you have to be aware of.
Totally. And if you are, it's, the most people who are listening to this podcast aren't influencers, but so maybe more the people who are listening to people who have influence. That's great, but still form your own opinions, obviously.
Yes.
And other than if your parents are trying to cheat you into college, listen to your parents. And that's an important thing. It's just like, let's not forget who our circle of influence should truly be. And that is family, friends, mentors, the people you have direct access to, that can share with their personal experiences and mistakes and relate. You can only have so much influence from someone through a computer screen. And you can only, because everyone's story is unique and different in terms of experience that they've had. And so, I think it's important for people to, I'm a big believer in mentors and having that, knowing where your influence comes from. And just, if you are going to be following people, that's great. And I follow a lot of people that I'm like, oh, it's a cool jacket. It's how so-and-so's wearing this, or a certain style.
Works. It definitely works.
And I like that, but, who you are and the kind of the values that you have and the type of, it's important to come from your inner circle.
Yeah. And it's, it's a position of power. Let's be honest, being able to be an influencer is a position of power. So it's like, what are you going to choose to do with that?
You have a lot of responsibility in your hands to teach these young people.
I'm taking it upon my, I'm going to, everyone that wants to be an influencer needs to listen.
How do you feel about having tutored a billionaire?
Great.
I think it's pretty cool.
I taught her everything she knows.
Do you have an opinion? Your friend Kylie has fallen under recent criticism for this title of self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
And help me understand, because I'm aware of Kylie. I'm not fully educated on every move that she makes. Mm-hmm. Was it Forbes magazine that called her a self-made billionaire, or was it her?
It was Forbes. Okay. Youngest self-made billionaire. I think before it was like Mark Zuckerberg or something.
And then a lot of people kind of jumped on this title and criticized the title. I guess criticized Forbes, but also indirectly criticized Kylie for this title of self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
And then she has, I guess, defended it by saying,
I think she came out. Please don't quote me on this. I don't know if she actually said this, but she said that nothing in my bank, not one dime from my bank account is inherited.
Yeah, since they're like 15 or something.
Yeah, so that's what self-made means. I think that people's criticism of self-made is because she grew up with privilege.
Yeah, which she did, which is fine.
And she grew up obviously already having some fame. I think that really helps. And I think that's what the criticism is. It's just like, well, you were already famous and you had money, so you don't count. I think that's what people are trying to say.
Yeah, I don't really understand that, and I'll get to why. But before I do, I'm curious. Minus her privilege, let's not pretend she doesn't have it and she didn't have huge advantages. Fine. You know her. You were part of that process of when she started it. What are some things that she did that had nothing to do with her privilege that resulted in her business being what it is today?
Developing a product has nothing to do with fame or privilege. Developing a good product and developing a good brand has nothing to do with fame. She really worked very hard at developing a good product,
sourcing it and developing the product,
going through several formulas, trying them out, things not working. Even the formula that's out now is different than the first formula that came out. It's like continual things. It's like you can't sell millions of something and have it be an awful product. It's like no one's going to buy it again.
Well, they won't buy it again.
Yeah.
Right? And so they might buy it the first time, but they won't continue as customers. The reason why I asked that question, and I don't think you're necessarily an expert in in what everything she's doing, is that I sometimes don't understand why, as a society, we like to poke holes in people's success. We always do it. And I don't have the background in our upbringing that Kylie has, and she had immense advantages. Great, fine. We are spending time as a society debating whether she's a self-made billionaire or not. And my thought is like, who cares? But there are probably, she's a 20-year-old billionaire, and I don't care what advantages you have. It's
amazing.
She had to have done something right. And again, there's a lot of things that what she did, the average person can't replicate. But for me as a small business owner, and I certainly have advantages as well that I've gotten now as a result of things I've done, but that came from, there was luck involved, but things I have done. But there's things that you can replicate in terms of hearing her story. And I don't know if Kylie goes and ever speaks to like things that she's done in her business, but there's probably takeaways of why it's, and you may not be able to grow your business into $1 billion empire. That's not the point, but you can grow your business into something more than what it was. And you can have sustainable success, and you can have repeat customers and grow your business. And there may be things that she did right that you can take away from. And yet we're spending more time arguing whether she's the youngest self-made billionaire or not. And I sometimes don't understand why as a society we do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I mean,
I don't know, Rochelle, if you have a
people are always gonna. The fact that she's like part of the Jenner Kardashian clan.
I get the credit. Yeah,
I think has just kind of that. Just she could she could brush her teeth and people would criticize.
Totally, and
people would criticize her.
And I don't just mean her though, but we do that. We do that with everyone. Yeah. Anytime someone has success, people are trying to. I kind of equate it to, and again, I understand there's in a lot of ways they can be not relatable. I get that. In some ways they are. But like when I was in sales, and this would happen every time when, you have a team of salespeople, and every day someone would close something cool would happen, a big deal. And there was always two groups of people when a big deal would close. There would be people who would walk up to that person who closed the deal and go, "It's really cool, man. Like, how'd you do that? Was there anything you did or a unique thing? Did you try something different?" I've been trying to close a similar deal and maybe there's a takeaway. And then there'd be another group of people who would kind of like go out to lunch and drinks and be like, "It's fucking bullshit, man. Like they got lucky or whatever. Like they don't work that hard. Their manager likes them. They gave them the better territory." And there might be truth in both sides of the argument, but what advantages do you get as someone who's just going to go and complain and poke holes? And even if that person had some luck involved, I'm not saying there aren't advantages, but they're the people who were just curious enough to ask, was there a takeaway? Was there something I could learn? Those are the people who are going to help themselves later on. And I just think we should do more of that stuff.
It's like, I feel like I get similar criticism sometimes where it's just like, oh, well, yeah, you were able to build this tutoring business because Kylie Kendall and Kylie were your first students, of course.
That probably helped too.
Of course your thing's going to be successful. First of all, yes, it did help.
Yeah. And let's not pretend that doesn't, that
let's not
happens.
pretend like that's not,
But there's other things that.
It's like I was a tutor long before I had Kendall and Kylie. And not only that, but taking advantage of opportunities and being aware of what those opportunities are has nothing to do with, that's like a thing all in itself.
And then executing. That Fire Festival document was a perfect example of opportunity and like setting yourself up for success only to epically fail because you can't execute and follow through with a plan. And so that, there's two ways that story could have gone, and it was an epic failure. Totally. It could have been a major success. And if it was a success, I would have been more interested in what they did to make a success rather than spend time being like, well, you had all these famous models promoting it. And that's why it was clearly they had those same models promoting it, and it still was a failure. Yep. It still was a tragic and epic failure. And so that's kind of my point, is just because you have opportunity doesn't guarantee success.
And people always want to bash. People always want to bash.
Poke holes in it.
They want to bash opportunity. Yeah. And they want to be like, well, you had the opportunity, so that's not fair. It's like, what are you talking about?
I just think that maybe some of the anger comes from, the situation that a lot of people in where they're working so hard and they're still barely making ends meet. And then you see people, like even when Trump was like, I got a small $1 million loan from my father. It's like what I would do for $1 million. And a lot of people just feel like they can't even get their feet under them. Yeah. And so I think that's that kind of anger that maybe they take it out on the wrong people. But
I get that. And again, I talk about my childhood a little bit too. Obviously, like we didn't come from money. I mean, there wasn't a day that went by as a kid that I saw my parents stress about money. I mean, it's ingrained in my memory of always seeing and when I was old enough to be aware, like 8 or 9. And I had an amazing childhood and my parents busted their ass to give it to me. But I saw them struggle. And that kind of affected me in wanting to like work hard and things like that. And I certainly had been I was gifted with athletic ability. So I used that to my advantage. I still worked hard to maximize that. There are things that people could poke holes in me and saying, well, you got lucky this and you were fortunate. And I've been very fortunate in my entire life, but there's also a lot more I have done to lead to the success that I've had in terms of, I now have people like to be like, oh, Nick, what do you do? You remember? I have 5 jobs. I have a podcast. I have an essential oil company that I run that takes up a ton of time. I've been acting now both commercially and theatrically that like it takes a lot of work and I've been busting my ass to do. And I saw some stuff on Instagram too. And I'm not saying like that's not really a job, but like, and you have to be creative. And I mean, I don't really consider it a job, but I am doing things that I am proud of. And instead of like people, and that took a lot of hard work. And also I was lucky enough too. But there are things that I have done that, people can replicate if they ask questions, and they can say, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, and then people say, what is luck when opportunity when hard work meets opportunity? That is true a lot.
I do think it's like this is an interesting topic of privilege, which I know that word maybe makes some people like cringe or get angry. But saying that someone has privilege doesn't mean that they don't work hard also, and they didn't. Right. But it's just it's just a reality. Some people have privilege that other people don't.
Yeah. And it does suck that there are people who bust their ass who have to do it that much harder. I will say that if you are that person, it will be sweeter, and when you get to that moment and you know the work that went into it, it feels gratifying, and it feels great to know when to reflect back on the things that you had to do. And and unfortunately, sometimes it does suck. Sometimes the world isn't fair.
It's not.
But other than I just think that I guess my point of all this is instead of focusing on how things aren't fair and because that is reality, if we focus on making the most of whatever situation you have and taking advantage of what advantages you do have and opportunities that are in front of you, you can improve your station in life. It doesn't mean you're going to be a billionaire. It doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire, or doesn't mean like it
but
just
you
might,
will just be far more successful in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, it just might be you're the middle management, and that's a great job, and you can do all the things that you never got to do as a kid. I mean, Like when I was a kid, I didn't know what it was like to go to Disneyland. Growing up, every week, some kid would be taking a week off of school. Like, hey, we're taking a family trip to Orlando. I'm like, well, great, because my parents couldn't afford to put like 6 kids on a plane. That just wasn't a reality.
Disneyland,
and then I grew up and I went to Disney World. I was like, not that great. I guess I'm fine.
Right. That's yes.
I don't know. I guess I hope I'm making sense to the people listening. Is like, let's make the most of what we do have and ask for help and ask people's questions.
Just don't focus on it too.
Yeah.
If it really irritates you, I mean, if there's someone that has reached a level of success and that just irritates you and eats away at you, I mean, literally it's eating away at you and it's taking away parts of you.
So much wasted energy
that could contribute to something so much better for yourself. Just focus on yourself. Focus on your own thing, and you'll be a much happier person. At least in that, you'll be a much happier person.
I totally agree. And I don't know what advantages Kylie's had a ton of advantages, but she's a billionaire. Is amazing.
She's 21 years old.
It's amazing. And I'm sure she's been super fortunate.
Yeah.
And she clearly has.
No, but she knows. I mean, she's a smart girl. She knows.
You can't. You don't just fall into $1 billion.
No,
I'm sorry.
You don't. She knows exactly who her audience is. She knows her product. Yeah, it's all,
I would rather compliment that than criticize whether she's had privilege, which she's had. And that's awesome. And congratulations.
Yeah, and then let's acknowledge it and then move on, right? Yeah. And then if I were someone that was looking at her situation, I would want to be asking goes back to the asking questions thing. I would be asking questions about like,
if I ever met Kylie, I would, as a small business owner, and there's a lot of things I can't relate to, and she can't be like, we'll get 1 billion followers. I would still be like, well, I would have so many questions for her. I would just be like, well, tell me about this. And there's a lot of things that she'd say she did that, well, I can't do that. Okay. I can't do that. But I guarantee there's things that she could teach me that she's done, and I would be thrilled to hear that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You up for some questions with some fans and share your words of wisdom as a tutor and life coach?
So fun.
Do you kind of consider yourself a bit of a life coach as well?
I don't know if I want to like take that on.
It's kind of like it's not the most positive.
I like to just be like, I know math and I know these things. I mean, like if I can help people out in that way, honestly, I think that's really great. And I appreciate people asking me that. I don't know if I want to like say that I'm a life coach because I don't know if I get it. You know what I mean?
No.
It's a lot of responsibility.
But you probably tutor about life a lot, especially when
well, I mean, what we try and do, because you were asking about like life skills and stuff like that. Like, do we teach life skills? Yeah. Do we teach? And it's not like we teach life skills, but we try and understand the skills that you use as an adult and try and apply that to, through the curriculum.
Like 2 + 2 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah. Also, don't be a douche.
Yes. Right, exactly. Just side note, extra credit. Extra credit. What do you do in this situation to not be a douche? Yeah. But we really do though. We try and just get them because I mean, you get the question all the time. It's just like, when am I ever going to use the Pythagorean theorem ever again in my life? And the question is, you probably
the Pythagorean is it? Which one? No, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
You just used it again.
What's the one that's plus or minus the square root of 4a plus?
That's the quadratic
equation. Oh, yes. It was pretty.
See? No, I remember too. I remember when I was like just tutoring math. And I was like, remember all those times when you were like, I'm never going to use this again. I was like, don't become a tutor because you will use it. You will use it again.
Well,
but it's like more so, it's just like, it's problem solving skills really too at the end of the day. It is.
That's a key to life.
Yes.
Well, it's one of them, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
This is my friend, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you? Good
Hi,
to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
Whatever she says, you should listen to. She knows what she's talking about.
Great.
Well, Kelsey,
I am good.
Kelsey, how can we help you?
So I wrote in, I had a question about me and my boyfriend.
Okay.
We've been together officially about 4 months since December. But before we were officially together, I was, seeing other people. I live near New York, and that's just kind of what you do. I learned
because you're
early
near,
on.
Nice.
because you're near New York.
Yeah.
Just to be fair to you, Kelsey, it's not just a New York thing. But continue.
Right.
Well, whatever. I guess especially feel it out here.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was seeing other people. He apparently was not.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's kind of on him. I straight up told him at one point, I don't think you and I are in a relationship at this point. I'm still keeping my options open. Like, I was very clear when I told him this.
Mm-hmm.
And about 2 months after that conversation is when we made it official.
Okay.
So he didn't realize that, I meant what I said. And I was actually seeing other people during that.
Realize it. Right. Okay.
I immediately like you, Kelsey.
I know.
So-
me too. Me too.
So I don't know. It's kind of sometimes a point of contention. Like, he and I have been together a couple months now, and it's going really strong and everything's fun. And he's a great guy. I really like him. My family likes him. But every once in a while, like, this will come up about how he doesn't trust me all the way. And there was a little bit of a twist to this where I kind of had goals for myself to maybe be a little bit more of a hoe than I have been in the past.
Wait,
It's just so we're hearing you correctly.
did you say goals?
Goals to be a hoe?
Yeah.
How old are you,
Yeah.
Kelsey? How old are you?
Kelsey, own it.
Yeah, that's
No,
pretty much what they were. I had 2 goals in particular. So one of them was I wanted to get my number, and I think you guys know what I mean by number, up to a certain number by the end of 2018. And when I met Mike, it was Q2 of 2018. And let's just say I was a little behind on my
Okay. And you were
how old are you, Kelsey?
I'm 26.
Okay.
And when did you set the goal?
Her quarterly statement was behind the mark a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you got to do.
I'm just this is fascinating. What made you want to get your number up? I have no judgment. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's a fair question. I just kind of did.
Okay.
I didn't really act out a lot in college, and I didn't do anything at all in high school.
Okay.
So now that I was in my mid 20s, I was like, if I'm not gonna, go nuts, I don't know. I guess this is kind of the time, because I just didn't in college, and a lot of my friends did.
You're like, my turn.
I appreciate the self-awareness. I mean, for those who are listening, I'm assuming I don't assume. I know there's people listening who are just like all these different opinions thrown out right now. But what is? Listen, this is your choice. You want to, experience more sex, and you are entitled to that. Sex positive. I appreciate the self-awareness. I mean, you're also an adult, so you are entitled to do that. And you seem to have a good sense of humor about it, which I appreciate.
I just love how matter-of-factly and how openly you're saying this right now. I think it's really great.
How old is your gentleman?
He is 30.
He's 30.
And yeah, so there's a little bit of a gap, but not too much.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I thought he would be younger, to be honest.
No, he's like, he knows what he wants at this point. So I think that is part of why I'm in a committed thing with him.
Okay.
But,
not because necessarily you're ready. Are you reluctantly in this relationship?
No.
You're in.
No.
You're happy.
Well, by the time he and I made it official, I knocked off both my goals.
Well, I was going to say, that was my next question. I was like, well, did you hit your goal?
This is great.
Before you made it official? Okay, so you're happy because you're
Is he aware?
got there. Sorry,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
no, please.
No. I'm just saying, so you're happy because you're like, okay, cool. I mean, was that your thing? You're like, hey, before I make it official, I got to hit this goal. Was that like the sort of the thing, or?
It would have been, obviously, I'm happy that I did hit both of my goals. The other goal, by the way, was I wanted to get 2 people under my belt, so to speak, within the same 24-hour period.
Wild.
So that was my second goal. And I
24 hours or?
And you had reached the goal. Okay.
Like 2 new people in the span of 24, one fabulous weekend, I guess.
Listen,
I'm really curious about this call for, again, we talked about, I have a predominantly female audience. This is an interesting caller for, you. Thank you for speaking so freely. But, again, the stereotype of men going out, and having this type of activity. And they could be like, oh, he's a player, kind of a man whore, but they call it man whore, not, because it is kind of like, okay. Mm-hmm. And I hope people aren't listening. Listen, Kelsey wanted to have some sex and she wanted to experience life as a single person. Did it make you feel safely? Hopefully.
Safely. I hope everything was done safely.
Safety was a huge priority for me.
Yeah.
Was it a liberating feeling that you wanted to experience?
I just didn't want to feel like I was missing something. And I guess this is a very weird and quantitative way to make myself not feel that way. But I'm a very analytical person.
Yes,
so
clearly.
Numbers
I mean, Q2.
Works for me.
Yeah, and again, for those of you listening, this is
interesting.
again, we have different ways of how we process and communicate. Kelsey's clearly analytical, as we can tell. I appreciate it. I have
your numbers
very
person.
matter of fact. I love it. But getting into your relationship, clearly you're vocal and you are so confident in yourself that you're willing to come on this podcast and share your story. And I appreciate you doing that.
Thanks.
Is he obviously aware of this whole thing?
So, yes, he is. And that's kind of why we still fight about it, because I wanted to get a certain point, hit a certain number. And with the addition of him, I still had 2 numbers to go.
Oh. So when you met him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he and I first got together physically, after adding him to the list, I still had 2 more open spots to hit my goal.
Fucking wild. But you weren't official.
You weren't official.
No, we were not. And I made a point. This is very important. I made a point of laying my cards out there and not exactly saying what my goals were, but saying, he had just gotten out of a very serious relationship. I had been single for a few years and wasn't quite ready yet at that point to be in a relationship. So I laid it out very clearly, like, hey, you might want some time for yourself to be single, and I still want more time for myself to be single. So let's not put all of our eggs in one basket right now and continue just, seeing each other casually and seeing where it goes. And he agreed, but, he said that he didn't really take it that seriously, and he was treating me like the only one. But then I literally the next day, went and got with someone else to knock off my 24-hour period goal.
Yeah, no.
And because at that point, I wasn't thinking relationship. I told him what I was thinking, and I felt free to do what I wanted to do. And then a few weeks after that, it was another guy's birthday. So, happy birthday. And so I was able to reach my goal. For both goals, I was able to reach both of my goals in October, and I had until New Year's, so I was feeling pretty good about myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. So then fast forward to December. So this was September, October, where I was accomplishing the goals. In December, I was basically at the point with Mike where I knew I was ready to be in a relationship, and he claims he made it official, but it was really me. He brought me out to the city for this night on the town to with the purpose of asking me to be his official girlfriend. But then I just beat him to it because I was getting impatient.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, can we just be official already? And he was like, oh, that was the point of this trip to the city. So by the time December rolled around, I was ready to be in a relationship, but I told him about the goals at that point. I said, before we make this official, I just want to lay everything out there and tell you what I've been up to the last couple months. And he was like, look, I can understand, you wanting to experience things, but I don't understand why I wasn't enough. Why, you may have had these goals before you met me, But then when you did meet me, why did you still want to pursue them? Why wasn't I enough? And I was like, look, all I could do was tell you, and I did tell you that I was still playing the field. So this was a few months ago. This was in December. And, you know, it's March now. We're going strong. Everything's great. I'm seeing him later tonight. But every once in a while, you know, it'll come up that he doesn't fully trust me because I was able to do these things I did. Mm-hmm. And I just don't like that we have a crack in our foundation, so to speak. Like, I really like this guy. I know it may not seem like it from the onset, but I've gotten to the point where I do really, really care about him so much. And I want to be with him for a while. But now I realize that, you know, we might not always have the most even footing if we're starting off at this place of, do I really trust you? So that's kind of my question is, Nick, I know you know what it's like to have a clear favorite in a group of three. Hate to bring that to you, but, you know, how do you handle it going forward? You know, on The Bachelor, I'm trying to make a connection here, but, you know, it's known that you're dating multiple people at once. I tried to make it known I was dating multiple people at once, but it still played out kind of weird. So I was wondering if there was any perspective on just how I can continue to reassure my boyfriend and make him think that he can trust me because he can. I have no intention of not being faithful to him.
Well, here's what's interesting is that I don't think your issue is trust. If you could have done anything better, it sounds like the way you tell the story is that you're honest with him about I'm not ready to settle down, and implied, you know, there's an obvious implication there that why aren't you ready to settle down? Because I want to keep dating other people. Mm-hmm. And if you're not in a committed relationship, you have the right to do whatever you want. Right. You maybe could have been you're obviously a clearly upfront and direct person. You could have really leaned into that and been like, just so we're on the same page, I plan on having sex with other people.
Well, when I first met him, I was having sex with someone else, and he knew about that person when I met him.
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think honesty is really the problem. You've been very upfront. You seem like a great communicator. Your biggest problem could be, and I can relate to this, over communicating sometimes. Yeah. So I just, you know, like, I don't think he has the right to feel how he feels, and it feels like it's trust. But if he was going to listen, I would suggest, in fact, he could probably trust you more than anyone he's ever trusted before. Right. No, because you're so open about your experiences. What he's having, you know, like a hard time processing is this need of feeling like he's enough. And that's a real feeling that people feel out there. Both men and women too. I think it's important to feel special in a relationship, not to discount that. But I think sometimes, again, going back to people get bogged down in the idea of things. I mean, it's all perspective on what he values and what he thinks is enough. Yeah. The fact that you are so liberating and open and wanting to do this, but he's the guy that you truly want to commit to makes him special. Maybe not to him, but into your mind it does. So his perception of feeling special is entirely up to him. And I guess my point is that's not anything you can necessarily control.
Right.
I don't know the dynamics, and it sounds like you really care about him being a nice guy, but I think it's very self-aware for you to recognize that there's a crack in your foundation. And before you really get serious with this guy, he needs to accept you for who you are and the person that you were before the relationship. And he needs to, and again, you might not be the girl for him. And that's fine for him not to want to be with someone who might be as sexually liberated as you are. That's not a crime. And for all those, like, again, this is all personal preference, but you deserve to be with someone who sees your openness and your risk taking, you know, while being safe, and the fact that you wanted to live your life and you were self-aware to know that this is what you want to do so that you can fully give yourself to whatever relationship you are in is an admirable quality, but someone needs to appreciate that about you. You need to be with a guy who is confident enough to probably have done the same thing, and his ego isn't so big that he knows that he's enough because, you know, does that make sense? And I don't know if he is the guy for you, because he just needs to see that for what it is and not to make it worse. And he just needs to accept it, right? Because it's kind of like when you're cheated on and I forgive you. And then they don't really forgive you. He can't get if he wants to be with you, he needs to like accept how you met in the early stages of your relationship sooner than later. And if he doesn't want to, that's okay on him too. Doesn't make him a bad guy. You know, he's entitled to not be okay with the beginning of your relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you did anything wrong, but he's entitled to not be okay with it.
I think
he deserves to be honest with you about him, whether he's actually okay with it or not.
I think that maybe if you're trying to get to the reassurance part, if you're like, okay, what can I do? Because I really care about him and I want to be with him and I want to try and figure this out. What can I do to make this issue less of an issue? I think maybe communicating to him that his issue of the reason why you had these goals has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And only to do with yourself.
It's a great point. You were always going to do this.
Yeah. You didn't sleep with other people because he wasn't good in bed or something like that. You were sleeping with other people because you had a personal goal, because you wanted to. It had nothing to do.
Yeah, just be like, it wasn't about you.
Yeah. So I think maybe letting him know that the way that you feel about him is neither here nor there in terms of what you were doing in the first 2 months of your relationship.
Yeah. And what is about him is the fact that you really like him and you want to be in a committed relationship and you don't need to continue what you were doing because, you know.
Now you feel fulfilled.
And you clearly are someone who's confident in themselves that if they didn't meet the right person, could just continue to have a very entertaining life. Right? And so he isn't filling a void. You are dating him because of the person he is. And I think to Tiffany's point, let him know that and communicate that with him to give him that confidence. But also, I think maybe have a conversation with about like, what do you mean by you don't trust me? Because I've been completely honest and I understand if you're not okay with what I've done, but you certainly can trust me. Because there's a couple. It's him feeling as a guy like inadequate or out of his masculinity, and again, for different reasons, women can feel that too. I've had plenty of women be like, "Well, I want to feel, everyone wants to feel special in their relationship, but it's all perspective." He should feel special. He just doesn't in a traditional sense of how you. I mean,
there's probably always something kind of deep down inside him that thinks just like, what if she wants to start doing this again? Then like, I'm going to get hurt, So there's probably always that fear. But I mean, it's like you could what if yourself into lunacy. So
yeah, but should you have that fear regardless? Like,
you're right.
Predict the future. Yeah. So I don't know.
Listen, I think Tiffany makes a great point. I think we all, and I can do a better job of this. We all, this is a strength of yours, who you are into you, but it can sometimes be intimidating to people. Sometimes it can rub your admirable qualities can sometimes rub people the wrong way, even in relationships. And so being aware of how you come off or, and not, just anyone, and especially in a relationship, how to communicate that so he sees it as a quality. And ultimately he needs to do that too. And, it's not your job to make him appreciate you, but how you communicate your actions so he understands your point of view is an important thing. And that's the biggest disconnect is he doesn't really seem to understand where you are coming from.
Yeah.
And your motivations. He thinks it's about him and it's not about him at all.
You guys are.
So try to help him understand and try to ask questions and make him feel confident and do whatever you can. But I do think at some point he needs to accept you for who you are.
Right. And he needs to just accept that that's what it was and it's not that anymore. And you can move on from that rather than continuing to bring it up. Which is really hard to do, by the way. It's not like I think we all have issues of, like when you're in a relationship of things coming up from the past and continuing to fight about things that happened like 5 years ago and stuff like that. But
and in fairness to this guy, like, listen, it would have been more ideal had you met your goals and then met someone 6 months later.
Yes.
Right? Does this kind of overlap? It was like, any guy is gonna like, okay, like, or even girl, like this is not a sex thing. It's, the overlap kind of makes.
Yeah, it's circumstantial, isn't it? I think relationships are highly, I think the success of a relationship is like half circumstantial. Sure. I feel like you can meet the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams and not be in the right place to be with them at that moment, which kind of seems like, I don't know if he's like the man of your dreams, but it seems like you met someone while you were in the middle of, this
life.
Yes. Like while you're in the middle of working on something else. And so,
doing my thing.
Yeah. So like if you had met him afterwards, then obviously this issue wouldn't have even been one.
Yeah.
So
I think, so just to sum it up, I think the best advice is I wouldn't apologize. You were honest. I would articulate that you were very honest, but I would empathize with his point of view, that you understand where he's coming from, and then try your best to make him feel how you feel about him, and that you really care about him and you really want to see this relationship can go, but he does have to trust you. And that trust is ultimately on him.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I agree. I think part of it is just time. Like as it goes on, it'll become less and less relevant, and we're going to continue to grow closer as we would.
Hopefully.
And it just we'll take the sting out of it. As long as I keep being reassuring and letting him know that I care, like you guys are saying, then, time will speak for itself.
Hopefully, but if in 6 months from now he is still bringing it up and not dropping it, I think that's a red flag you should consider.
Yes.
He might not ever, you don't want to invest in a relationship that 5 years from now, he can't be bringing this up. And that happens in relationships where people will not get over things. And you don't want that to grow into like a tumor and be a bigger problem down the line.
No.
So
you have a good point. I mean, I'm definitely going to continue to be self-aware. So I'll be running those little checks for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for the very entertaining call.
Thanks, Kelsey.
All the best to you and your boyfriend. Take care.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
What is your name?
Marina.
Hi, Marina. I'm Nick. This is Tiffany.
Hi, Marina.
What's your question?
Hi. So my question is, about 6 weeks ago, my best friend and I had a disagreement because he has been liking and commenting on pictures of a girl who my only real serious boyfriend so far cheated on me with. And I've asked her to stop a few times. It's been going on for a few years, and she hasn't. And this time when I confronted her, she just said that I was being insecure and that I needed to get over it. So my question is, like, am I overreacting? Like, what do you think?
Are you still dating this guy?
No.
How long has it been?
About 3 years.
Oh.
Is she friends with this girl?
No.
What is she liking about the? I don't know.
Why is she?
Seems like such a simple ask.
I don't know. So they went to high school together, and she kind of knew her, I guess. But when he cheated on me and I told her like who the girl was, they weren't following each other at any social media platforms or anything like that at all.
And then they started following each other?
My best friend followed her about a year after the cheating and started liking all her stuff and commenting.
And this is out of nowhere. She's not like an influencer of any, like, does she look up to anything that she does on her social media account?
No, there's really no reason for it because so, I mean, it's not like they see each other or they're friends or they bump into each other. It's kind of just out of the blue.
I have a thought, but do you want to
that would annoy me. I would just be like, why?
Totally. I mean, there's no...
Why? What does she say when you ask her why, actually? I mean, you've asked her why.
So when I asked her why, she just kind of said, like, it's social media. It's not a big deal. And basically just said, like, you shouldn't care.
She can't tell you how to feel.
Okay. Well, what do you think?
I loyalty matters to me in friendships. And so that would bug me. The fact, like, there's no real motivation for her. They're not even friends. Like, it could be dicey. Let's say she was kind of friends with this girl and now she has to pick sides. if she's truly your best friend, it would seem like such a simple ask to ask your best friend to have your back in this situation and not like the picture. That being said, I mean, sure, if you want to look at the other side, she shouldn't tell you how to feel. But forgetting about her opinion, trying to like let go of that unfortunate situation would be helpful. I mean, it'd be nice if she helped you along the way to do that. And she would probably help you move on from it completely if she just stopped making it a thing. But she's like scraping the wound.
Is she like have you guys been arguing or like have you, I mean, I've definitely had friendships with very, very close people that like where you're like kind of annoying each other for a long time and kind of like doing things to get on each other's nerves and press each other's buttons a little bit.
No, I mean, like we've had a really great friendship, which is why this is ultimately so confusing to me. And for me, it's not really about like the likes and the comments. It's that I've asked her to stop and she's like, yeah, I'll stop. And then doesn't. And I had this blocked. So I didn't even know it was happening. And then whenever I like kind of discovered it, I was like, this has been going on for years after you said you were stopping. So
she's lying to you.
That's weird.
I mean, how old are you?
26.
Okay. I mean, yeah. She might not be the best friend that you thought she is.
That would really annoy me. And I would just be like, was it worth it? I mean, I'd be like, is it worth, like you feel the need so strongly to like and comment on her photos when you know that it's hurting my feelings? Like, what is it? Does this other girl get some sort of, I mean, I'm talking about the cheatee. Does she get like, is she like loving the likes and comments specifically from your friend for something? Have they like had some sort of bond? Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, to be honest.
I don't know. All the comments are just kind of the typical girl, like, you're so beautiful. You have such a beautiful soul, and that's one that bothers me.
You have such a beautiful soul,
bitch. You know,
flames,
actually,
and
no.
then like fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji.
You know what? Here's my takeaway. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just have a question. How did you find out she was even?
She's really into fitness, and she's beautiful. Like the girl he cheated with, like she's beautiful. But it's always like kind of like half naked pictures of her. And then my best friend is commenting like, you're so incredible. And I'm like, that's who my boyfriend cheated with. Like,
but
really?
How are you even seeing this? Are you stalking her? The cheatee? Are you stalking her?
Open Pandora's box, probably.
How are you?
So the reason why is because I follow a boudoir photographer, and the boudoir photographer posted pictures because this girl went and had a session with her. So I saw all of those, which was really fun. And then I went to like snooze boudoir photographer so that I wouldn't see them for a while, and noticed that my best friend on those had commented and liked them. And I was like, is she doing this on her normal profile too? So I went and looked.
Down the rabbit hole.
So here's my thought on this. I now have a strong opinion after hearing about all this. This happened 3 years ago, the cheating. Mm-hmm. Not to downplay, like cheating is a terrible thing to happen to anyone and it's hard to get over. But 3 years is too long for you to still be pining over this experience of being cheated on. And unfortunately, the situation that your friend is putting you in, it's like, again, it's like scratching at a wound and she's not letting it heal. And you should not have to worry about like this. You being reminded of your boyfriend being cheated is not something you should be indifferent about it at this point. And it's not entirely your fault that you're not. You could probably try to do things. My guess to follow up to that is I personally think it's super weird when people lie about weird small things. And I usually think in those situations, it's like that is a red flag that's just the only thing you know that they're lying about. And this weird little motivation, we don't know. There's something more there. I don't know what it is, but she's lying to you for no goddamn reason which means that she has no problem with lying to you for no goddamn reason. And to me, that's a red flag as a human being, as a person. And so I hate to say it, that maybe this best friend is not really your best friend. And she certainly doesn't have the qualities I would want in a best friend. And my best friend, I want them to be loyal to me to a fault. And if I'm being unreasonable with some of my loyalty requests, to have that friend check me. But I don't think you're being unreasonable. And if like she's like, well, she was my best friend too, and I don't want to, fine, but that's not seems to be the situation here. So I guess the biggest takeaway is you need to get yourself to a place where this cheating experience is something you're no longer stressing about or thinking about or even putting any effort into. It's been 3 years and you need to get over it. And I don't say that as like get over it, like you need to put yourself in a situation to help yourself get over it. And unfortunately, your best friend is making it worse, not better. And so if that's the case, you need to remove that from the equation. And I think to help you do that is to realize that she's lying to you about dumb shit. And that to me makes me really nervous. People who lie to me about dumb things make me really nervous because that means they'll lie about big things.
And just the covert stuff makes me really nervous too. I don't like, I just think it's all kind of shady. And if it were me, I would personally I would like really distance myself from this friend because she's obviously not making you feel very good. Yeah. And like what, like I just don't, I don't know. It's hard. And like, this is such a girl thing.
That guy, I mean, for me,
I don't know. I think that's like, I just
men
think
do it too. Maybe in that situation.
I can't imagine a guy liking another guy's photos of someone that
it's not the liking
his friend's
part,
girlfriend cheated with him on. And I hate to say that, not to be like sexist or anything like that, or like anti-feminist, but like, it's just, I mean, this is like, just don't be friends with people that don't make you feel good about yourself.
Yes.
I don't like that. And it's like, it's obviously hurting your feelings, and it's like not helping you get over this thing that happened a few years ago. And she knows it hurts your feelings, obviously, and she's still doing it. And I think that's kind of fucked up.
Right. Having a best friend is also a relationship, and every relationship every day should be a measurable, there's no free pass. Like every day you have to earn that friendship, and she's not doing a good job.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of thing about like, it's not really about the cheating anymore. Like that's long in the past. And honestly, I don't even really hold it against this girl. Cause I'm like, who knows? Maybe she didn't even know that he had a girlfriend. Like, I don't know what she knew. I've never talked to her. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about the thing. For me, it's like, you told me you stopped. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I had account blocks. I didn't know, but you never stopped. Like it was still going on. And it wasn't just like a like here and there either. It's like every single picture. So I'm like,
that's the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bigger issue. And when I confronted her about it this time, she just said, literally, not everything is about you. Like, that was her response. Not everything is about you. And I'm like, but this is. Not everything is.
But also, like, to me, I hate it when people say stuff like that because that's not the point. And again, we just met you, so maybe you're a totally selfish person. I don't know. Like, whatever. But the point is, you have the right to feel the way you do. And if your best friend, that's what best friends are for, to ask these kind of crazy favors and have loyalty within reasonable. And if her response is it's not about you, then fine, fair enough. We're just not best friends. And I think, like, you know, I mean,
yes, that's totally right.
You're right, but I want this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're like, right. It's not about me, but I don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, like, so because we're talking about friendship here. We're not talking about we're not talking about Instagram. This is not about Instagram likes or comments. It's
like, why do you feel like you need to do? Like, I'm supposed to be your best friend, and like so why is this girl? Why is you like just this urge that you have to comment and like her photos? Does that like trump over our friendship? I don't get it.
This is a story about loyalty and honesty and being upfront and not telling little white lies. And if you're willing to tell a little white lie, you're willing to tell a big lie. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what you should focus on and try to figure out, do you want that in your life or do you not? And just because she's your best friend today or was your best friend yesterday, doesn't mean she's your best friend today, and doesn't mean she should be your best friend tomorrow. And every day is a new day to prove your loyalty and friendship to all the people in your life. And family is one thing, you know, they're family. You love them to death do your part, but friendships come and go. Mm-hmm. And
They do. Yeah. I think a lot of us feel obligated to be friends with people that we've been friends with for a really, really long time. And I think you have to ask yourself, if you were to meet them today, would you want to be their friend?
Yeah. And breaking up with a friend is sometimes like hard as breaking up with a significant other. But sometimes, to Tiffany's point, if they're not making you feel better about yourself, then you need to remove those equations from your life.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, I mean, like, it is really hard because she's been a part of my life for so long. So it's like, I was just making sure I'm not like completely overreacting and like blowing something up for no reason.
I don't think you are. I mean, it's a reason enough to call and get our advice.
I mean, it's not like you've like
follow your gut.
Or anything.
Yeah.
You know. So,
listen, you've communicated with her. She it's on her now. You have other friends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what is our takeaway? What is our
let's all call having sex meeting our goals now.
Meeting our goals. That was
right?
wild.
Wow. So let's try and put this in the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Owning yourself, being self-aware.
Being self-aware. That's I think that was great. But yeah, I mean, like, obviously you're doing a lot of great things. I think education in general is something that is important that I think we sometimes dismiss at times. But the actually education, not the idea of an education or the degree, we can learn both in school and from mentors in life. And I think bettering ourselves is very important. And sounds like you're doing a lot of great things to do that.
Yeah, just learning in general, being open to learning. You know, I always say that I'm always trying to teach my students how to learn so that when they're adults,
it's a skill.
They want to learn about things and they have interest in things. And I think not having education be like so much of its own sector so much, but really just a part of everyone's life, because like educating yourself is
you do not stop learning when you stop going to school. If you do, you're in trouble. But yeah, I mean, that's really cool. And I commend you for, starting Novel, Novel, novel. Can you use it in a sentence? Indeed, I can. I've never won a spelling bee. Obviously.
I won my 3rd grade spelling bee.
Of course you did.
I spelled the word cassette.
That's a hard one.
It's a hard word.
That's a hard one.
So, just there's that.
CASSETT?
Yes.
E?
Yes.
He wasn't going to add the E.
I was not going to add the E. I'm fucking terrible at spelling. Anyways, I thank you so much for being with us. It's been a lot of fun. Come back anytime. You're in LA.
Thank you. Yes.
And if I may, now that I have your cell phone number, text you how to spell things.
Yes, no problem.
Because here's my problem.
I'll
here's my
answer.
problem. Yeah. I'm so bad that it's like, how do you, like you autocorrect? And a lot of times my iPhone's like, I have no fucking clue. I know.
You spelled it so badly.
So badly. They're like, and I've spent
everything in our computational powers cannot.
I'm going through all these options, and I'm like, okay, what's a smaller word that says the same thing that I know how to spell? That one. Great. I'll use that. Anyways, thank you for joining with.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget us to rate us on iTunes, 5 stars if you want. You can again find Natural Habits at NHOils.com. This has been a ton of fun. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.